This is the XOR.
How old were you when you left Latvia?
18.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's quite old actually. So you did your entire
Entire high school degree.
high school education in Latvia. Then
Yeah.
you went to Finland?
Yeah, Finland for 3 years. 3 years. But through these 3 years, I've also went for half a year to Glasgow.
Yeah, in Scotland.
Yeah.
And then
Then went back, and then I've started to study in...
graduated?
Start to work
And then you started working.
in London. Very quickly, occasionally. That's one of the shocking things for me. I was told many times in uni, like, oh, it will take like months and months for you to find first job. Yeah, it will be painful, but as soon as you're basically started, it will be easier then. I was scared. I was saving lots of money because I thought like London is expensive city, like it is expensive city, and I need to hold up some money to allow myself for multiples of months not to work. I found work on the second day. I'm super talented.
Dude, well, that wasn't my experience. And you just had a bachelor's, right?
Yes.
So
I'm not that educated.
You're fucking
but
smart,
I'm fucking smart.
Smart and lucky, I guess, for you getting a job
True.
that quickly.
Lucky,
So
I believe.
I think. Do you think it had an effect on you that you stayed quite late? Because I left Russia at 12. Like I know some people live here since they were 5. Like Russians lived here since they were 5, and they're British. Actually no, I wouldn't say they're British. They're just very mixed. But like you've already formed. You went through puberty in Latvia, right?
Yeah.
So like all your like social interactions were Latvian. So do you think?
I believe it's a question of where basically I arrived when I moved to Finland, because basically, I was living in Latvian society, and then I've moved to a new country. I would say that's a good thing that basically both of Latvia and Finland is both kind of Nordic countries.
Did you feel like a culture shock? Like, did you?
I went crying when basically I've just sit in a bus and I've realized, fuck, I'm leaving Latvia and I'm going to somewhere.
Did you actually cry?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you moved to, I guess, Finland and Latvia wouldn't be that different, but maybe Finland and Scotland would be quite different culturally.
For Finland and Scotland was fucking different, because after studying basically for 2 years in Finland, when you see people standing on a red light and see like 1 kilometer one way, 1 kilometer another way, no cars, they just standing here, red light, I'm fine, I will be standing here waiting for green, and then they just start to cross. And when I moved to Glasgow, I was basically placed, here's campus and here's uni, and there was only crossroad, it's only on 2 opposite sides. And I thought like, fuck, how can I get to other side? And I've seen policemen just crossing the road in the middle of the is it okay? I've crossed the road after again, and I asked like, is it okay? That's yeah, no worries. That's how we do here. And I was like, ooh, that's 2 very different aspects, like how people basically culturally live.
Well,
there.
Finland and Scotland, like twin cities, but they're both miserable. And
What do you mean by miserable?
Miserable? Come on.
I don't understand.
Scotland is very. Oh, the word miserable?
No, like, can you explain what do you mean by miserable?
Oh, come on. Like
sad?
all the. Yeah, sad.
Gray?
Yeah, and I think
in Finland, by statistic, I might be lying, but I'm reminding you, I'm 100% true, like source of
facts,
truth.
100% facts from Sergej.
Through the February, you can have in average 1 day when you can see sun.
Yeah, no, probably in Scotland too. I think that's what I mean by they're both miserable. Like they're probably.
I didn't feel that too bad because I was living in Latvia. We don't have a like very good climate, and when I've moved to here, that's where basically I've started to feel like, oh, I'm comfortable in UK, and in Finland it was much better. And when I even moved to Finland, I felt it's better than in Latvia, and I believe it's also a matter of the climate because. In Latvia, we always have a temperature which basically moves in between of 5 degrees and -5 degrees. As a result, you have wet snow everywhere, cars going next to it, it's black, it's everywhere, it's horrible. But in Finland, as soon as winter comes, it's -10 standard. You just wear warm clothes all the winter for
if
5
it's cold
months.
all the time, then it's, at least it's stable, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I've enjoyed it. It's like, and the nature there, I've really enjoyed Finland. And I really advise everyone who don't know where to go for studying. Finland is really good direction back in 2014. I don't know how it's there now.
This is the XOR.
You've sang a lot of praise of Finnish education. Why do you think that's the case? And like, explain what you mean, because I only have one friend from Imperial who actually, after doing a master's, went to Finland to do a PhD, and that was like a question mark in my head. But apparently, like, I've heard people say really good things about the education system in Finland.
One thing which I can definitely say that I've enjoyed, that they have a lot of practice compared to other unis. At least what I had experience in Glasgow. And for instance, we didn't have exams.
In Finland, you didn't have exams?
We just had weekly tests where basically we were passing through certain topic of subject like EMC validation, Fourier transforms, or something like that. And we basically go through some particular topic and then have very little test where you can use your computer to get source from. You can speak with your colleagues, because the most important thing that you'll be able to solve the question, the problem which been described in your paper. And that's where I've really it's slightly clicked my mind that, oh, why do I actually need to learn all these facts? I understand why it's important to know these facts, because it creates the foundation of your studying. But I believe if you've been listening well enough on the course, you can get this foundation. I was one of the persons who've never missed any lecture. I was all the time being there. I don't know why. From high school, I wasn't really passing much of this on lessons. And I had the same thing in Finland. And basically, it was great enough for me to just listening lectures, because a lot of lectures wasn't like academic teachers. There was like, some of them was creating satellites, some of them was working for IBM, and they actually being people from industry. And listening for them explain like, oh, you don't really need to know for 100% precisely what resistor you need. You just randomly catch. If it doesn't work, change another one. It's no matter. You don't need to go through deep calculations. And actually, when I've heard that, I thought like, it actually makes sense. And through my life, I'm kind of doing that for my work. And I've never actually had a situation where like, oh, I haven't calculated that very accurately. I will need to do that. Because if I will need to do that, I will need to do it for specific reasons. For instance, I will need to build very precise amplifier, for instance. And then I will know that I need to spend time on calculation. Basically, what I want to say to finalize that, they've learned me how to apply studies, and my university was called University of Applied Studies.
What was it called?
Applied Science.
What was it called fully?
Helsinki Metropolia University of Applied Sciences. And basically, they've taught me how basically do engineering through kind of applying what the people from industry basically practiced at. And that's basically one of the things which I've got from Finland and what I didn't get from Scotland. Basically, when I've arrived in Scotland, I was great in doing courses. I've made all my courseworks earlier than they need to be done, all on the maximum marks. Exams, fucked up. I've got worst marks, really on the threshold of getting past.
So basically, you're saying that Finnish education was much closer to reality. And like, for example, the ability to make quick decisions, like quick approximate decisions trumps like a lot of theoretical workings.
I believe that's the most important thing. That basically, I believe one of the parts of education, what education actually does, it's creating new network, like communication between of your cells in the brains. And I believe for some people, getting these networks connected well, it's actually making something physically. And we had a lot of lectures which like, okay, let's discuss of how to design operational amplifier. We was discussing it for 2 hours, then okay, let's go to the lab. And literally after we had a lecture, we go to the lab, starting building them, starting to measuring. You place different resistors, you see the different results, and you straight away start to realize, oh, actually, if I'm touching some resistors, it doesn't fucks me up. It doesn't shocks me. And you start to kind of realize it in different level that, oh, that's resistor. It's actually component with the 2 terminals. I can plug it into this thing. And it doesn't matter how deeply I've inserted because it's very little current needs to be passed. And you start to realize it's slightly on a different level.
That's very important. I think education is changing altogether. Like the lecture practice exam sequence of, I don't know, the last century is just not going to work for a while. Like there are special universities, like in France there's like 42 university that is trying to change the way you like have lectures. But for example, even things like Udemy and Udacity, like for me is a game changer, complete game changer. Like I started doing them and I realized that I paid like £29,000 for a master's degree that didn't teach me how to use CAD. And then I paid 2 months ago £15 for a two month course that taught me how to use CAD. Like that to me, I realized, this is something crazy.
But I'm really glad and really jealous on your, again, level of control of yourself. I've bought also a couple of courses on Udemy. And it just doesn't really... I believe it's a matter of actually... how much interest you actually getting there, because I bought little course of learning how to do objective-oriented programming of C++ on the microcontrollers. I've understood basically what benefits it brings me. I've realized that it's not what I actually needed from this topic.
Exactly. No, that's still beneficial.
And then I've decided, like, no, I don't need to that. And basically, I've paid someone to say, like, oh, please explain me how to do something. Oh, it's not useful. Okay.
Well, actually, it is useful because, I mean, if a degree has a course and then halfway through you realize, like, oh, this is garbage. Like, this is not what I want to do.
That's how I started to learn electronics.
Yeah.
I've made it by mistake. Was I telling to you that story?
No, you did. What course did you do again?
I've done electronics engineering course, but I was originally planning to study for programming and IT, and basically it's happened because I was playing Dota 2. My mom was knocking my door saying, like, Sergey, have you applied for uni? I've told, yeah, mom. And yeah, I thought, like, guys, let's have a 5 minutes break after the match. I'll quickly fill the form. I've started to fill the form and I didn't have enough time and something crashed on the website. I thought, fuck, I will do it quickly on the between of next match. And then basically I've started to fill it without really reading deep through that. And one of the lines was like, select the studies you would like to do, and the study I've selected, I thought like it's just list, but actually it was priority list.
Right.
And because first time I felt like IT, what second if I want to apply for IT, I'll go for electronics and other studies. But second time when I was like, what you should go scroll, and I seen like, I remember I've selected this one. I've selected, and when I've actually started to, like, when I've actually received the application that, you've been applied for uni, I've told, nice, but that's not what I want to study. And then I thought like, not a big deal. I think I'll change it later on. But actually, when I've started to study that, I thought like, it's actually quite interesting. And I've decided not to change my degree. So
all genius inventions happen by mistake. So
maybe.
Now
or in Dota 2. 100% facts.
all genius inventions happened between Dota 2 matches. True, not.
It's, for me, it sounds very harmful that basically they add so much stress, which currently now doesn't actually affect you in any way. It means like that's exams. It's not really good method of validating your level of knowledge on some subjects.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Exams are a relic of the past. I mean, if you become really good at exams, it just means nothing. Like it doesn't mean that you don't do exams at work, right? Like when you go to the industry, like you don't do exams. When you ask, no one asks questions and expects you to answer them immediately. That just doesn't happen.
That's basically one of the important questions. It's like I would say it might be wrong, but I can assume that on the very early stages of basically everyone's career after university being segmented, basically, which field you will go to, and basically it's because you've been good or bad in certain subjects, and it means like there is still demand of like evaluating it somehow. The question is how, and the Finnish system, I've 100% enjoyed that. It was simple enough, it was straight enough, I didn't have any problems with that, and I basically, I've heard a lot of story of people saying like, fuck, I just wanted to finish university, or I basically paid a lot of money and I don't know what I've actually learned from it. I didn't pay anything for in Finland.
Finnish
universities are free for European unions. Okay. And like something like 3,000 for not European union. So quite cheap as well. I really advise anyone, if you don't know where to go for studying Finland, back in 2014, first invent time machine, 2014, blam.
This is the XOR.
Any activity that you think about, work kind of derails.
Yep.
And I'm trying to get better at a work-life balance. And I'm asking a lot of people about their, like, what they do about that. So where do you think you stand? Because you tend to work a lot, and you also you stay quite late. You work on weekends, like, right? You have extra. You're a consultant.
Yep. I found for myself. I found rule for myself, which I've been also speaking a couple of times with a psychologist, because through the COVID, by some point I thought like, oh, I'm getting mad, and basically it made me understand. My psychologist made me understand that it's very important to find a hobby which you're enjoying doing, and I believe one of the rules I've defined for myself, that be simple enough for your hobbies. Don't really push them as hard, just do it as good as you want to do them, because I feel it's just a relief for your brains. It's actually also important thing, which I've been multiple times I've heard from different people, that sometimes you can really enjoy what you're doing when it's not really serious, and when you're adding the seriousness to these tasks, it's getting boring, and that's where basically I feel the level of comfort for myself of doing whatever I'm doing, and one of them, if I will share it with more of the people, I'll feel like, it adds more stress to me, and would like to avoid it, because I don't want to do that.
Okay, so you have to choose something that you can be freely bad at.
Yes.
Right? Without, well, it's because also personality.
Because it's easier to get better in something you're. It's easy to get better in something you're already really bad. Right. You can develop yourself very slightly, then learn a lot of other topics of like how to rhyme, how to record something, and then basically based on these little things, it's educated your little skills, which you might never use them. However, you might end up in a couple of times it was very useful for you.
Do you feel like, because I can already see some personalities, including my own, that you start trying to be like aggressively competitive at it, where you're like you have to be the best, and then it just ruins the fun, right? Like that's exactly what you mean. But isn't that like personality? Like some people, it's some people's personality to be like that. Like, do you think you have that personality where
yes,
you tend to pick up things and then get frustrated because you're trying to be too good at them?
Yes, cringe. That's enjoyment of the cringe of doing something. That you're doing something for the first time. They're like, oh, that's really bad. I shouldn't have doing this. And then after repeating that, you're like, it's actually
enjoying
not that bad.
Cringe.
But then, and I believe it's a matter of kind of enjoying and time stamping like your life. Kind of creating little mistakes, creating little memories, and then have a nice references in the past, like, oh, I've done that stupid thing. It's I felt quite beautiful, like a little of beauty of humanity, like just be yourself, whatever, is it good or bad, because none of us perfect.
This is the XOR.
Time by time I'm repeating the same analogy as tattoos. I hate tattoos because it's first, I don't want to have needle tattoos passing basically through my skin. I feel painful, and I don't feel like, I think my body is beautiful enough to add something else. But I still need to create the same thing as I was saying before, references to the past, like what actually I was like 5 years ago, what I was standing for 5 years ago, and creating little lyrics which will, maybe they won't be truly showing me, but that was me writing and expressing, having some back thoughts in my mind. And
so what's the tattoo analogy? Like
basically it creates, like when people making tattoo, most of the people say they're creating reference like, oh, I've made it because we was a couple and now we're not couple, or like, oh, I've been in this amazing trip and I've made the tattoo of the city where we end up this trip, and instead of that, I think creating videos, music, any piece of art, drawing, basically it's the way to express yourself, to freeze your mind through the time. Time capsule.
That's a very good way to put it. It's like you're basically creating memories out of the things that you're bad at, right? Like
creating memories from the things where I'm bad at. As a result, I can make my real mistakes, kind of emotional mistakes, or maybe not mistakes, maybe I will be on other side, because some of the things I'm pretty proud of them. When I'm, for instance, went to jog, I'm listening to my music sometimes, and some of these things I'm really enjoying, and so it's all mixture. None of them are like I can say like, let's put it on the radio, don't do that.
So basically you're saying getting out of your comfort zone is a way to freeze time, right? If you think about it.
No, I would say digitalize it.
Digitalize it. I need to think about that one. That's pretty good. I think as an engineer I kind of understand where you're going at. It's pretty profound.
Or maybe draw it and put it on the wall. But basically, yeah. I'm not saying that everyone should do that, because if everyone will start to do that, maybe it's actually be cultural new paradigma.
I think it's paradigm, right? Paradigm.
Basically, it might be in the next cultural paradigm that people will start to express more wider, and we'll get rid of the popular stars, because we'll have a lot of local people whom will be our own points of like how to say reference. Points of attention.
Right.
This is the XOR.
I have one funny story on my first job. When I've just moved to UK, I was working in design consultancy, and I was the only one Russian there. Basically, everyone was British, and I was like, yeah, but my mother tongue is mother tongue is Russian, and basically it was the period of time when there was a lot of hacker attacks with malware, which was encoding all your data. And basically, when I've moved to the new company 2 weeks after I've joined, they had a case where all their servers being attacked, and through the night it was fully encoded. And all the data they were storing for like future projects, for a current project, that was encoded by Russian website. Pay? And
actually paying works, right? Like paying works. Like they've
decided not to pay. They've decided to go to the Cambridge company, which was decoded all this data.
They did.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah. It took them 4 days, but
that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad, but it still was like...
As soon as Sergej left, all of our data got encoded.
No, as soon as I joined.
All right.
I really just joined 2 weeks later. All the servers been locked by Russian virus.
Because you go on Yandex.
But yeah, it's
You go mail.ru. Fucking download.
yeah, it was saying like, yeah, go to some no, it was, I don't remember particularly, but it definitely had some Russian references particularly, and yeah, it was weird. I was for a bit worried, but the director of the company told, like, no worries, we
Nothing
won't
to do with you.
Yeah, we won't blame you. And I felt like, thank you, and thank you for saying that, but it was definitely not me.
Even if it was me, thank you.
And I was like, please still pay. There's my Bitcoin account.
This is the XOR.
You worked on actually some really cool projects in the
I
past.
don't think which. Oh, the GravityLight or
Yeah. Because I actually saw it. I mean, before knowing you, I saw the YouTube video that you can describe it. Like, what? It's a really cool project.
Yeah, basically, I've joined the company which was developing the off-grid lighting solutions for developing markets, such as Africa, mostly Africa, because basically, according to statistics, they have basically around the world there is. At least when I was developing it, there was about 1.6 billion of people without constant connection to the grid, and most of these families are using kerosene lamps, which is very bad, especially for kids, because they do study late, and kerosene, first of all, it's dangerous because it can fucking burn your shelter, and the second thing, it's also harmful for
toxic fumes.
Yeah, right? Toxic fumes, and idea was to create device which will be the same price as half a year of the kerosene, and basically. It was when I've joined. It was already second generation of the product. First one was called GravityLight. Basically, it's a bag of sand which is attached with a kind of rope, which kind of is a gear rope, and you basically pull it up with that rope, and then it's very, very, very slowly falls down for like 20 or 30 minutes, and it creates enough light as a kerosene lamp. And it has a cost of something like $15. When I've joined, basically we had a push task further. We had a requirement of making it more usable for more areas, for also people like who like hiking, because after they've created this product, they thought, oh, that's very actually nice product as in matter of like it's very environment friendly for tourists if they want to get light, for instance, in the woods. And we thought like, oh, okay, basically pulling rope to bring back up, it's one kind of way of action. It's transporting your energy of your body to the back, which then will slightly falling and create the light. So we've started to brainstorm like how and what's the most efficient way of turning energy from your body to the battery or to some energy storage. We end up using battery, and we end up using this kind of the same mechanism after a couple of studies, like using legs, hands, different movements. We figure out that the original intention was the most optimal one, and then basically it was a challenge of getting to the BOM cost, of target cost, to actually make it suitable for these developing markets. And we supplied these to Red Cross. That was actually a very stressful moment for me, and one of the nicest moments that after quite a long period of time after I've left the company, I've asked like, oh, actually, don't you know what's going on with these prototypes I've built? Because it was literally built by me in a workshop of me soldering resistors, microcontrollers, programming and that. They've told, yeah, it's not 100% reliable, but it's 100% works at the same time. You basically can pull and create lights. Yeah, software is not reliable because you can pull it sometimes too hard and then it will boom and it will show, oh, you have 0 time. But I've also created some prototype was basically a way to protect the battery. So when you overcharge it, it will say, oh, actually it's 100% now, and you might be actually to pull slightly more than like, oh, 100%. Also, I've created a mechanism of charging it with the solar panels, and also giving them opportunity to kind of not spending their own energy, but getting the light. And I was getting good feedback.
So to this day, GravityLight, it's still in
NowLight. It's called NowLight.
NowLight.
Yeah, first generation was GravityLight because it
Right.
was a matter of storing the energy from the gravity.
So, but it's still the same concept now, right?
No, it's different because we're not using gravity. We are using kinetic force of your basically body to create energy through the gears to the generator to the motor, then stored to the battery, and it's called NowLight because idea is that you really getting energy in a second. 1 second of pulling.
Alright, so GravityLight didn't have a battery,
Yeah.
right? It was just...
Battery was basically send off back, which was very, very slow.
Okay, now you can charge the battery by... Okay, yeah, again.
Yeah, and ideas of that, it's now called NowLight, and it really gives you energy within a second. Basically 1 second of charging, it gives you 1 minute of light. So for instance, I was even using a couple of times this product because I have prototypes, and it's really enjoyable when you like just need a bit of light. You just pull 3 times and you have 3 minutes of light, and you do whatever you need quickly. Just leave the place and it will just shut down when energy is stopped. So I personally like this product. It was kind of successful on the Kickstarter. We've raised $150,000. We've supplied them for Red Cross. I don't particularly happy with the level of my expectations of how easy it's actually to industrialize something. I'm not happy with that experience, but I believe because I didn't have much experience by that time, it basically was my very first job of creating product from the brainstorm of how it can look like, then up to the tooling and starting production, defining the schematic and that kind of stuff. So it was nice experience, but also very stressful. And I understand now that I could have done it better if I was me by then. But then I will charge them for much more money.
That's exactly what happens. You learn how to do things quicker, but then you charge more, basically, because of that.
Yeah.
This is the XOR.
What about you? Your first job is here.
Yeah, my my first job. No, actually, I did an internship before that.
Where was it?
It was at a place called the Founders Factory. It's a startup incubator, and they bought. It was a robotics internship because they're doing really well, and they spend a lot of money on this humanoid robot. It's called Pepper. Have you ever?
No.
It's like a very famous humanoid robot. It's like 1.50 meters on wheels. Yeah, they bought it, and then they realized that the software is basically an API. Like it doesn't do anything out of the box. So they were like, can you program it to that when people enter the office, it like greets them, and so instead of, because it's a startup incubator and like they have hundreds of they have like maybe 30 companies. Every company has like 4 meetings a day. It's like 120 meetings a day. Like people come and go, and usually people don't know it's their first time,
okay,
right? And they're never coming here again. So they just want a robot to do a receptionist job, and it was the most fun I've ever had doing working. It was
really.
It was so much fun because first of all it's robotics and it's human robot interaction, which I like. It's my thing of interest.
That's interesting topic which I would like to discuss. Basically, I've heard and I've read that some topics of people seeing robots and basically giving some aggression to them, kicking with legs or pushing them, and I believe it's very important to basically we definitely will go to sometime in the future when robots will be deeply integrated within our culture, and we need to kind of create the culture of us between the robots. And I believe creating the kind of us feeling like, oh, it's just other piece of something. How do you see that integration?
That's a great topic. On one side, basically, some people when they see like one of my colleagues, he went to, I believe it was ICRA, and it was in Canada a couple of years ago, I believe, and he said that there was an audience and they showed a quadruped, which is like a dog-like robot, and it's being kicked. And you've seen like a million of those Boston Dynamics videos where they kick the robot. This one, I think it ran out of battery or something, or like the control messed up, and it started spasming. Like it just completely. Thank you. The joints went everywhere, and it just started like spasming. And then people were gasping. They're like, oh, like, turn it off.
Yeah, because you straight away have a feeling of,
So-
it's not okay.
Yeah. There is real feeling of attachment towards not like if you can
And
lie to your like visual system. If you see something and looks about alive, you immediately start treating it as a living thing. It doesn't take actually that much to trick your body into thinking that.
So I've seen the study which was saying like actually creating emotions for a robot to show like, oh, I didn't enjoy that, like kind of create sad face when you knock a robot. It might help.
This Pepper robot was really good at that. I mean, it had a lot of software systems.
Could you push it and like?
Yeah. It would say, oh, like
Okay.
if you pushed it, it had so many sensors. I mean, it's by a French company, and they did a really good job. Like I'll admit, before they were bought by like after they got bought by SoftBank, and then I heard a lot of people. SoftBank is the killer,
big guys.
the killer of startups. So they got bought by them, and I heard that a lot of people left because they weren't satisfied. But before that, man, like their software is really good, and they have a system called Artificial Life, which manages, for example, even when the robot stands, it's not rigid. It's mimicking as if it's breathing. It has like up and down motion of the chest. There is like idle mode where it just like looks around.
But I personally think that's a wrong approach. I personally think that adding basically it's create high requirements on the humanoid robots, and I believe we should go slightly towards different direction. We should create specific robots for doing specific tasks. For instance, robots which cleans our houses now, like as iRobots, or like how it's called, vacuum clean robots.
Yeah, it's humanoid robots get a really bad reputation for basically being very interesting field of research and looking very cool, but being very
Not practical.
non-functional, at all. And it's been like that since the beginning. I mean, what, maybe 60 years of research. It's nothing has changed. I've watched some videos from 1980s where they discuss humanoid robots. It's the same issue as we have today. They don't accomplish anything. They're not task specific. Too expensive, too big, too bulky, too everything.
Wasn't you saying like one? And I believe that's one of the important things that basically our body is good at. It's muscles and level of control each muscle give, and how basically we're controlling it. And for now, it's motors. It's a complicated thing, and to give high torque with a motor, basically, I want to say actually a different thing. I want to reference to one of the things I've seen you was sharing before. It was a kind of fiber sensor, like fiber things, which you kind of apply voltage across them, and they shrinks. That sounds like quite innovative technology, and I believe it will change the way how humanoids will look like.
It's called electroactive polymers, and they do change like physical properties.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I don't think that's the case.
You don't believe that technology?
Well, technology comes and goes. It doesn't really say, like, it doesn't solve fundamental issues. Like, you need to solve fundamental issues of why people need this. And if you do that, it's if you had just better motors, better vision, like better compute, more like GPU power, it doesn't solve. It'll just calculate things faster, but people still won't need it. You know what I mean?
So that's where I'm saying that I see better integration of the robots to humanity. It's when we create product or task-specific robots, not like humanoids, which will be multi-specific tasks. For instance, robots which does deliveries, like which are currently you can see on streets of Tallinn or streets of Moscow or streets of United States, which basically deliver goods. They look like little cars with a flag. They don't really look like an animal or anything. You don't feel that attention, like attract, like a connection with that as a with an animal.
Also, the thing about those delivery robots, like, although I did say that people tend to care towards like anthropomorphic, which like animal or human-looking robots, they also tend to vandalize robots. That basically, because I don't know, some people have aggression towards like things that are let's say in the uncanny valley. They look kind of like they're moving, they're alive, but they don't really. So to them, it's like a pretender. So they get feelings of that they need to basically like assault it, and they feel no repercussions towards it. Like a lot of people, like especially engineers, like they'll just put a hammer to a robot. They'll kick it. A lot of pedestrians like tend to vandalize drones and delivery robots. So we're still not ready for, like, people don't. In the first stages that we are now, we're going to see a lot of issues with that. Like, people are going to be unhappy with the. But the internship that I was at, I mean, people loved it. Like, people have, I think, innate desire to interact with robots. Like, people want it. Like,
because it sounds like it was innovative, like startup hub. So there was a lot of people with their own weird ideas, and they was kind of very welcomed by other kind of like odd stuff.
It was cool. It was super cool. And at the end, I didn't spend much time there. I was only there for 6 weeks, or like maybe a month and a half.
6 weeks doesn't count like a job.
Yeah, no, it was an internship, and it was just enough time for me to start working at Arrival. So, basically, I programmed as well as I could, but it was very interesting, and I really liked seeing like edge cases. Let's say that you take for granted. For example, like if I'm talking to you and make eye contact, I don't always keep like full eye contact. Sometimes I break it. Sometimes I look away. If you were to approach me as a receptionist, like. When do I say, hi, can I help you? Like that, just knowing when to say that at the right time, at the right volume. Like when? Like is it when you approach me, or is it when you approach me and look me in the eyes?
I can see that, like, for 100%, like needs to be a study at, and people actually won't really pay much attention when function will start work really well. Because they will think like, oh, it just works.
We take it for granted. Yeah, for sure. We take it for granted. It took
for a long period of time when I've just joined that product design consultancy where I was working. I wasn't aware that injection molding is the process. I just thought like plastic pieces just comes from somewhere, from the god of plastic. I don't know.
Yeah. Well. Complexity is another thing. People don't understand just how difficult it is to build a robot or build anything or do anything. It's this naive approach. It does help sometimes, right? Like when you first start working, your naive approach actually helps to be innovative. But as soon as you're like, a lot of people start, like, let's say you graduate university, I'm going to have a startup. We're going to build these amazing pieces of products and ship it and sell it. It's very difficult. Like, good luck.
That's what I 100% never had in my uni. Everyone just thought like, we'll just be working in Finnish companies like Kone, which does like elevators for half of the world, or ABB, which does automation tools for industrial companies. And we didn't have 100% any of this spirit. Like, I'll create a startup.
Really? You didn't have... So in Finland, in Eastern Europe, you didn't have a culture of the startup culture, basically.
In my uni, I didn't have.
Right?
In my uni, I didn't have that.
And in Scotland, you did, or
no? In Scotland, I would say I was shocked how when I moved to Scotland, I had a feeling like I'm stepping back,
Really?
Yeah, because like things which I was taught there, I like. I know already foundations for that, but I would just like needed to do it from slightly different perspective, and now I need to remember this because I will be doing by end of this year exam, and courseworks was super easy, and like all this thing that's which made me feel like I enjoyed Finnish education again. We're coming to this back to this discussion that yeah, I had a feeling like Finnish education was step further because it was kind of easy, fast going compared to slowly step by step in England in Glasgow University.
Well, London is different though. Maybe it is because I both universities I went to were in London. It was it's like a startup hub maybe, and everyone wanted it. Everyone. It was very entrepreneur centric, but it was a lot of also I think maybe. Smart guys from Imperial just think they're smarter than everyone, and they're like they think that as soon as they graduate they're just gonna I don't know fuck the world. And
my uni was not even in the top of 5,000 universities of the world.
Or the
it was
Finnish
not,
one.
Yeah, it wasn't in the list.
Well, look at you now.
And now
that's
what I want to say. Like, it's is it important?
No.
Same as like marks and exams. Is it important? The important is that
personality is
how you present yourself. That's I believe that's important.
I think character and personality go way further than anything. Like you can be a Oxbridge graduate.
That's where maybe even exams and tasks actually is bad, because then, for instance, I can easily imagine these scenarios. I don't have examples of that. No, I don't want.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that people who used to get good marks on all the exams will have super high expectations of the work and super high confidence on that they can do whatever they will see, and it might not be true.
Yeah, as soon as you come out in the real world, you realize it's very difficult. It's actually to make things happen. Hands-on people tend to have an easier time adjusting to the realities of life after university.
This is the XOR.
I'd like you to talk more about your general lifestyle as electronics engineer. Like, what do you think? Like day-to-day activity, you basically do what? Like you design PCBs, you do R&D activities, right?
That's one of the funnest thing. Like most of the as electronics engineer, most of the time I don't do electronics engineering.
Really?
I do test plans. I do analysis of the bill of material costs. I do analysis of how we can utilize this product. I do software requirements. I do preparation of documents for industrialization. I do all weird shit, but 5% or 10% of that it's designing PCBs. It's a lot of time of actually being on the meetings and talking like, oh, are we all right to apply this change? Like, yeah, please tell me. Yes, I'm fine with that. And it's definitely not designing PCB for the 8 hours a day. And I would say I won't really enjoy that. And that's because I believe the pipeline of I'm basically I would say, and that's where basically I have a feeling like I had a luxury of working in my first place of work, because I was kind of full stack engineer. I was developing the concept, I was developing the first iteration of PCB, I was doing early validation of that, I was developing the software, I was assembling them, I was redesigning PCB, and was basically the one man in whole electrical team. And then basically where I understood like whole spectrum of the task you need to do. And
you also said, before that you wanted to do a degree in chemistry.
Yes, I don't want now.
Well, explain your thought process behind that, because in the beginning I was like, "Oh, you're an idiot! Like, why would you
Basically, I've been studying electronics engineer, and I've fucking been amazing in that. And I think if I'll just start new topics like chemistry, I can be fucking great in there again. And I just thought like, I don't really know. I'm not really sure that I would like to spend more of my life on learning and going deeper in understanding electronics, like, how you can actually manufacture MOSFET or crystal, which sits inside of the chip, or how you can create high-frequency transceivers and receivers. But I thought, like, I definitely have a huge gap of knowledge how chemistry process is happening. And I just thought, like, if I will fill that gap of knowledges, then these basically two different studies will definitely merge somewhere, and it creates new potential skill sets, new potential like applications where I can be very useful, for instance manufacturing processes, or mostly manufacturing processes.
But that
measuring.
When you said it, I didn't really see the connection between chemistry and electronics. I mean, obviously, I knew that you have to. Computers are made in a factory, right? In a chemical factory, if anything. But then I was like, oh, that's very fundamental. That's very cool. But you don't want to do that anymore.
I've bought a book. I've started to read it through. I've realized that. No, I'm not saying that I'm not fully committed now. I basically started to read, and I've found that it's a bit boring, and I don't feel that I will really enjoy studying that in here, and because basically I'm signing contract of living here next 25 years at least.
Oh yeah, you're buying a house, aren't you?
So basically I don't have a chance of going to Finland, for instance, to do this study, and studying here, paying tons of money to get a paper, and not sure what I particularly will get. So basically I'm not sure what's the particular method of getting that knowledge. I started to read the book. I'm not fully happy with that. Udemy might be the direction. Yeah, you're right, but I'm not that committed as I was originally. I've started. That's where I'm very good at. Start fast and stop quickly.
Yeah, I think that's with everyone. Okay, I think it's been a good one. Did you enjoy it? How was your experience?
I really like turning my head towards the camera.
Yeah, I think you're quite natural at breaking the fourth wall.
Because it's not first time when I'm acting on a camera, and like a long time ago when I was back in Finland, my friend was studying in filming in Latvia, and we also like been directing a little film, which is that's where basically I would say I really enjoy doing something which I'm not very well at, because you straight away can kind of create your own guesses and break them, like understand, I think that's a cool idea, then you see that how you realize you actually release that, and then it's like, that wasn't very good. And it's very quickly, by kind of getting in the black room with knowing anything, just going to some direction, create some guessing and failing, it gives you very quickly some learnings. And that's where I've learned. And
do you want to read one of your apps?
No.
Okay, we'll wrap it there then. Give me a hand.